Hi there, this is Blackie Lawless from Wasp, and you're watching Art Uberalis. Boy. Well, I mean, first thing first, you have to go back to the very beginning, because we were never going to play live. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. We were going to go in the studio and make what we thought was the best demos we could make, which ended up being most of our first album anyway. And we thought, we're just going to send these demos out to the record companies, and then whatever happens, happens. Well, about 2 months goes by after we finish the album. We send the demos out. We're not getting any calls from record companies. And we said, well, you know, maybe we should try to play these songs live and see what happens. And so Chris Holmes and I had been in a band together before. We had a band called Sister, which really was what Wasp was, or what Wasp would become later. Looked the same, sound the same. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you want to do on stage? And he says, I don't know, what do you want to do? He says, you want to just kind of stand there and play? And I said, nah, I don't think I want to do that. And he goes, all right, let's try something else. So we started putting the idea of the stage show together, which is now infamous. And it was funny, because from that moment, we started doing the shows. We played in a little Los Angeles club called the Troubadour. And we had 63 people the first night. And it was a Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. And they're closed on Monday, so at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, it's the worst spot of the week. And then we went from a Tuesday to a Wednesday, and from a Wednesday to a Thursday, and then a weekend. In 11 months, we went from playing in front of 63 people to a venue in LA called the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, which holds 3,000 people. And we did that in 11 months. So our rise in Los Angeles was like an explosion, you know. So I mean, we came out of nowhere, and people go, "Wow, what is this?" You know. And a lot of it was because of the songs, but it was also because of the show. Okay, but Wasp in the 90s actually started as Wasp in the 80s, because by the time we had got to Headless Children, which came out in 89, we had already radically changed as a band, because we had done the first 3 records. You know, we had been on the road for 3 years. We did a record and a tour and a record and a tour and a record and a tour, and we didn't know who we were anymore. I mean, we were really pretty punchy at that point, you know. We didn't know what our identity was. And the funny part about it is we were on tour with Iron Maiden, and we were very close friends with them because it was the same management and things like that. And they too had just done a record that they didn't feel comfortable about. And we had done Inside the Electric Circus. We weren't comfortable with that record, because both bands had been in the same scenario where they had been on tour forever. And unless you take some time to pull back and discover who you are again, you don't know who you are. Because the road can make you crazy after a while. You lose your identity. And so we both made records we didn't really believe in, but we were touring together, and the tour was wildly successful. And then we said, both bands said, okay, we can't do this anymore. And we went away to make Headless Children, which took 2 years. And when EMI originally heard the demos for it, they didn't like it. They said, this does not sound like Wasp. It does not sound like what's going on in the market right now with other bands and things like that. And we said, well, we don't care. This is who we are right now, and this is what we want to do. And they really didn't want us to do, well, the record's release ends up becoming the biggest selling record we ever had. And then EMI's real happy about that, you know. And then that opened the door for what the 90s would become, which I went away after Headless Children for over 2 years to make what would become the Crimson Idol. And the Crimson Idol was exactly the same way. When they heard the early demos of it, they did not like it. They said, no, this is not what you should be doing. You should be making Headless Part 2. I go, no, this is not what I want to do. This is where I want to go. And they didn't believe in that record. And when the record was first released, it exploded too. You know, so they were all happy again after that. So really, those 2 records set the table for what we would become as a band, and still a lot of that late 80s, early 90s is probably the most recognizable portion of who we are as a band even now. Because without those records, you and I wouldn't be sitting here talking right now. Any band, you go back and you look at any band's career, their early records may be great, but it's never enough to sustain them. You have to see growth in a band. For a band, I mean, you know, any band can last 5 years, but to last 10 years, 20 years, you cannot do that on just 1 or 2 records. You have to have steady music throughout the whole period of it. And you also have to have growth periods. And Headless and the Crimson Idol were tremendous growth periods for us. Music driven by passion. You know, everybody says that the last record that we just did, which is Babylon, and the record before that, Dominator, are 2 of the best we've ever made. And it's interesting because I look at the audience now and it looks like it did in 1984. It's all 17, 18, 19-year-olds out there again. And that's really strange because it's almost like being in like the Twilight Zone, you know, because it's like, you know, I look at the audience and I'm still in 1984 all over again. I mean, it's an amazing thing. It really is. Because most artists never get it one time. But to now have it come back around again is just absolutely amazing. And it's not just us. I mean, there's probably maybe 20, 25 bands that came from that era that have been able to survive and do well. But they are representative of really what the genre of this music is all about. And we're just fortunate enough to be one of those bands. Well, it really started about a year ago. I was listening to some of the leaders in the EU in Brussels talking, and they were talking about this, they said was a global financial crisis. And whenever you hear the word crisis, it's an excuse to take some sort of freedom away from you, or maybe add taxes to you somehow. You know, the world's going to come to an end. And I was listening to them talk, and one of them was saying something about, well, you know, maybe it's time for a one world government. And then I heard another one say, well, if we're going to have a one world government, maybe we should have a one world currency, you know, one money. But the one that really got me was the last guy. He says, well, they believe that they could have all of the people in the EU microchipped by the year 2017. And man, when I heard that, I went, wow, here we go. You know, I mean, this is like, do these guys not know what they're talking about? Do they not understand this is potential 666? You know, I mean, this is some scary, scary stuff these guys are talking about. And then I started thinking, you know, it reminded me of 20 years ago when I wrote Headless Children. There's a line in the song that says, 4 horsemen sit high in the saddle and waiting, ride the bloody trail, no return. And I thought, are we closer to that apocalypse now than we were 20 years ago? And it really makes you think, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do with music. I'm trying to get you to think. You know, all art is designed to make you think, you know, whether it's movies, you know, music, whatever. You know, it's designed to really make you think about what you're seeing. And so that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make people think about who they are, where are they in their life, what's going on in the world around them, you know. Is this getting scarier all the time? Well, I don't know, you know, it's like, but I do think it's something to really keep your eyes open and keep your ears open and listen to what these guys are saying. Well, I'm doing this interview right now, and I'm going to do a show in about an hour after that. And to tell you, then I know what's going to happen. We just started this tour about 2 months ago, and we will be on tour until Christmas of next year. And it's funny because people, when they hear you, okay, we're in Athens tonight, and then they don't see you for 2 years, and they go, what have you been doing? You know, and it's like they don't realize, they think you've been on the beach in the Bahamas somewhere, you know, just like getting a suntan, you know, and they don't realize There are real people in Buenos Aires, Argentina. There are real people in Sydney, Australia. There are real people in Kansas City, Missouri. You know, and to get to all those places takes a long, long time. And by the time you're finished doing that, then you take maybe a month to try to put your brain back in your head, and then you start thinking about making a new record. So really the fastest you can do it is about 2 years. To do it at a reasonable period is more like 2.5 years. You know, but if you do it any more than that, then you're not doing it properly. So I mean, this is a lengthy process. You know, for the longest time, when you and I spoke the first time, everybody asked the question, what took so long for you guys to get here? I told everybody then, I says, we would have been here a long time ago. There was no promoters that believed in us. I don't know what it was, they just didn't think that we could sell tickets here. And we came here and we played Rockwave the first time. We destroyed that place that night and made a lot of believers here. And we've had a love affair with this place ever since. And I see no end to it, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to sound like everybody else, but I'm going to tell you the honest truth. This is one of the places we really love to come to because, I mean, today we were doing all the tour stuff at the Parthenon and all that. You know, I haven't been up there for 5 years, so, you know, we went and did all that again today. I don't think you guys, because you live here, I don't think you appreciate what you have here. And as a tourist, we come here because there's so much world history. This is the cradle of civilization is right here. I mean, I was standing there today and I'm looking up, you know, at those columns and I'm thinking, man, oh man, oh man, the stuff that must have gone on in here this is hairy, hairy stuff, you know. But because you live here, you probably take it for granted. We come here, there's a beauty that maybe you don't see. You know, you have that Aegean blue that's everywhere around here. I know it's the country symbol and it's the color and all that stuff, but there's something really special about this, and we fell in love with this place when we played Rockwave the first time. And like I said, I don't see any end to this. You know, as long as the people here will have us, we will keep coming back. You know what? To be honest with you, I probably just said it with what I just said about that love affair. And I hear other guys say this on TV, you know, and they're talking about some city that they're in tonight, and then they go into Paris the next night and they say it again. And I'm watching and I want to go, because I know they're lying, you know. But like I said, this place is... One good thing about the internet is that there's so many interviews that are published. If you don't believe what somebody's saying now, you can go check it against other interviews. You're not going to hear what I'm saying to you right now. You're not going to hear me say that very, very much. You know, because there are some places that are just special. And to us, this is one of those really, really special places. You're lucky to live here. Hi there, this is Blackie Lawless from Wasp, and you're watching Art Uber Alles.